Now we are in the section in the lesson about improving profitability with print on demand in digital categories. Now, if you are not doing print on demand and digital categories, you still should watch this because you're going to get some ideas. I taught about how to combine categories. If you ever do come up to these categories and start to play in these categories, this information is going to be helpful. We're talking about how to improve your profitability. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about how to increase your margin dollars per order. So hint, it's your average order value. That's what's coming into play here. We're going to talk more about profitable customers to go after in these categories specifically. And then ways to build repeat business. And repeat business is going to be key for you if you are doing digital and print on demand. So your average order value. You are most likely not going to get rich in your first year of digital downloads or print on demand by selling $3 items, unless you have a huge social media following and major personal and brand influence. I do not mean to be pessimistic, but as your coach, I want to be realistic with you. And depending on what your goals are, if your goal is to make a lot of money doing it with like profit of $3 per item, it's going to take you a long time and it's going to be really frustrating. So that's not the path that we want to take. So most people want to do these categories, print on demand or digital downloads, because they think it's going to be passive, but it really is not passive. If you want to scale and grow quickly due to the customer service experience necessary to do so, it takes a lot of work to do these categories. People think it's like, these are the easiest ways to make money. They're actually the hardest ways to make money because the barrier to entry is so low that everyone and their mom think that they can do it. So each customer is still a touch point. So growing quickly and creating a VIP brand shopping experience is going to require messaging a customer at least one time per transaction, even in these categories, as well as doing any follow-up post-purchase if there are issues with the download or with the item that they receive. So it is not passive. It is not set it and forget it. If you want to grow quickly and develop a really strong brand with great customer service, great reviews, that's not going to be the way. Setting it and forgetting it is not going to be the way to do it. So if each transaction here makes you a $3 profit after your costs, your shipping and Etsy fees, but it requires you maybe 15 minutes of your time for that customer service, for any post-purchase issues. Let's just say that each transaction, the touch points in the customer, and maybe if you kind of divide up the time that it took to make that design or whatever, and then divide across the number of orders that you've had. Let's say that you are having an hourly wage of only $12 an hour because of that. And that is if you are making $3 profit, but it requires 15 minutes of your time because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So that's 3 times 4, and that's $12 an hour. So now let's say that each transaction for print on demand or digital downloads is an average of 15 minutes. Let's just say that that's the average for communication, customer service issues, design stuff, like all of that. And let's say that you want to have an hourly wage of $25 an hour. So remember, that's profit after all fees and everything. So that means that you need to have your profit per item be $6.25. And that is your profit after your costs, after shipping, after Etsy fees, after everything. So that's how you would get to $25 an hour. But that would also mean that you have to be working that full hour in order to get that $25. So if you only sell one item, it takes 15 minutes, but you only have one item in a day, that's only $6.25 for that 15 minutes. So this really requires that you're actually filling the hours in your day with orders in order to achieve that hourly wage. So if you play in these categories, and if you want to succeed in these categories, then I want you to look at which items for the customer you're going after are selling on Etsy for over $30, okay, or whatever price within that category. So we are going to filter, you're going to search, something that your customer would search because we want to find the items that are made for them to purchase. And we are going to filter by price to see $30 or more and see what has either bestseller, top selling, or Etsy's picks tags. If they say, 20 in cart, like where 20 people have added it to their cart. So these items are going to tell us, okay, these are winners. These are actually selling. These are actually getting traction. So some examples would be, instead of selling t-shirts or tank tops, consider selling sweatshirts or zip ups. Those are higher price point items, maybe jackets, maybe even pants. Pants are higher price point than t-shirts. Consider adding a personalization option within the variations. So that could mean adding a name or a date or some kind of text. Consider adding that because you can charge for customization. Customization, whether big or small, whether complicated or really simple, that's where the profit and the margin is on Etsy. Some more ideas for you. Consider a wider size range where you can charge more for larger sizes. So for example, a large mug versus a small mug. There's like a 10-ounce option, a 16-ounce option. Same with tumblers. You could also do this for sizing. Sometimes certain shops only do a size run of small through extra large. Consider offering plus sizes, 2X, 3X, 4X. Usually shops charge more for the larger sizes due to the increased cost of material and shipping and everything. So consider material options within the variations where you can charge more for better materials. But on the search page, they're still seeing the lowest base price of your cheapest material. So for example, you could have a plastic version versus the stainless steel version. Now make sure when you do this that you link, when you have this variation option, that you link photos to the variation so that when they click plastic, the image of the plastic one pops up. And when they click stainless steel, the image of the stainless steel one pops up. This is going to avoid customer service issues, cases, all that stuff after shipping. It's all about making it really clear and communicating expectations so So this is an opportunity to do that, is linking your photo to the variation that it represents. Okay, another idea would be consider bundling the same item. So offering a set of 4 mugs for 4 times the price. You don't need to discount for bundling. I've tried both ways. So I used to offer quantity 1 or a set of 5 or a set of 20. And I used to offer deeper discounts if they were to buy more. But you know what I found? It did not make a difference. If they wanted a set of 20, they were willing to pay the individual price for those 20. They weren't necessarily buying 20 because they wanted to get a discount. Usually people who are buying bundles are buying additional because they want additional, either to give as gifts or to have themselves. They want the additional, not just because it's a better deal or on sale. So consider bundling different items. Maybe you think, oh, they wouldn't want, 4 resume templates. Maybe I sell resume template. Consider bundling different items. So like a resume template and a cover letter, or let's say you could bundle a t-shirt and sweatshirt set for blank, or a mug and a tumbler set for blank price. So consider bundling to increase your average order value. All right, we're going to keep going with more ways here. You could offer 1 printable for blank and then bundle 25 printables for blank. Blank, I mean the price. So customers would see this option as a variation, and therefore the price of 1 would be that lower price. It would be the price that they see in the search results. So that's a way to do it for printables. You could also offer a service element within the digital product. So one example of this would be use the variations dropdown to do this. You would say maybe you're a resume building service or a custom interior design service. So you're going to offer that as a variation in the dropdown. So they'll see that the lowest price is that base price of the item, and then they can see the item plus the service element is the higher price point. So maybe you give resume templates for $9.99, but let's say you do resume consults or resume building plus the template for $59.99, and then you specify what that contains in a listing photo and in the description. So maybe that's a 1-hour consultation with me, and I build your resume while we're on Zoom or something like that. Or let's say you're offering custom design services. You could say the base price is this interior design palette, and then let's say the item plus the service price could be a 1-hour consultation. We're walking through your space on Zoom, and I'm proposing like layout ideas. It's basically your personal consulting time. So base price for the palette could be $15, and then for the service you could charge $100, and that includes the palette. So think about service elements that you could include within your digital product. And oftentimes when you are willing to include a service element, that is when you build that passionate customers who just love you and are raving about you. It sets you apart. It really connects you and creates that personal connection with your customer, and they are willing to leave reviews. You'll get repeat business. You get referrals. If you just have a digital product or a print-on-demand product and 0 customer interaction, not a single message, the amount of referrals that you're going to get is going to be just so low. It's going to be almost non-existent. But when you offer that personal interaction and maybe a little bit of customer service or a service for them to purchase within the listing, you are going to get referrals way, way, way more. So that is something to consider. Referral business is huge on Etsy. Okay, another way to increase your average order value is through profitable customers for these categories. So for example, we could sell to groups such as family reunions, bachelorette parties, groomsmen, bridesmaids, doing like girls trip items, boys trip items, sports team items for either kids, adults, like what is that thing called? Fantasy football. Oh, you can tell. Dance teams, cheerleading squads, other kids' activities, guys' golf trips, couples' vacations, honeymoon, his and her items, bridegroom sets. These are all ways to increase your average order value because you're selling a higher quantity in each transaction. A lot of these customers are also primed to want to buy something to celebrate that specific event, activity, or moment in time. So they want to buy something and it's a popular occasion, and they're ready to spend money on that time, to celebrate that time or to celebrate that team or that event in their life. So they are warm customers, and that's a much more profitable customer. It's way easier to sell to these types of groups than to cold customers who maybe just buy a one-off thing for not a specific reason like these ones. Okay, another profitable customer in this category would be selling to B2B customers. Now, this is one of my favorite customers to go after. Office, businesses for branded marketing items or team building items for employees. You're going to get higher quantities going in each transaction. You could also consider selling wholesale to boutiques. Now, people think that when you're selling wholesale, you have to price it at, 50% of your retail price in your Etsy shop. Now that is called keystone pricing. My jam, this is what I've done my whole career before Etsy. So you do not need to be selling your things with keystone pricing. So 50% of the retail price. You do not need to be doing that. I would say a minimum discount for boutiques would be 20%. That would probably be a minimum discount. I used to be a buyer for Asics, the running brand. We would get 15% off, at the start of the season. That was the pricing that we would get. So do not feel like, okay, if I'm selling to other businesses or boutiques, like I have to do 50% off. That's way too traditional thinking about wholesale pricing. If someone wants something, they can mark it up. As long as you don't have price tags on your items, they can price it at whatever they want. Consider it a private label relationship where you are a private label provider for them. So outside of boutiques, consider maybe summer camps. They might want branded items for their kids or employees. Think about schools for spirit wear. Think about medical community, maybe for their office staff. There are so many B2B customers that are warm and willing to buy, and they have a budget. That's the key. They have a budget to spend. That's a warm customer because they're going to spend money with someone, and no matter what. So you want that someone to be you. So yes, this is what I was mentioning. This works. Why this works is because businesses and organizations have a budget to spend. They have money set aside for the product already. They will buy something with that budget, regardless of if it's from you. So they are considered warm leads. They are also likely to become repeat customers. So once companies and organizations, businesses and organizations find a vendor that works, they usually do not spend extra time in looking for new vendors each year or each season. So this is a really, really, really great way to build repeat business because they're not going to make the effort to shop around to save 50 cents here and there. All right, here's some more profitable customer ideas for you. Interior design client. And I don't mean the end user. I mean interior designers who might want to buy your wall art for projects that they are working on for their client's home. So your client is the designer and their client is the person who owns the home. House flipping, renovation, staging businesses, they also might be interested in wall art or design palettes. Any businesses with waiting rooms or customer-facing offices. Think outside the box, not just medical. What about salons? What about the next thing I thought of was tire shops, right? Automotive places. But think about any businesses with waiting rooms or any customer-facing offices. Weddings, that's another great profitable customer. Event planners kind of can tie into that. They might be your customer more so than the actual bride themselves. Kids' birthday parties, because no matter what is going on with finances, parents are still going to celebrate their kids, even if money is tight. So that's something, it's annual, it's repeat business. It happens every year. So if you have digital downloads relating to that, that would be a great idea. All right, I'm going to keep throwing ideas at you here to get your mind going and get your thoughts turning. So what about customers who have expensive gym memberships? They're already paying for ways to improve their health. So these, maybe they have trainers, maybe they're on like meal plans that they pay for. Think about maybe fitness trackers or meal trackers. What about customers who are already paying for mental health services out of their own pocket? They might be able to afford digital downloads that relate to what they're already willing to pay for. So think about, what is my customer already willing to pay for? They're willing to pay for things to help their mental health. They're willing to pay for things to help their physical fitness. Think about those things that they're already willing to pay for and then provide a solution within that versus trying to convince them to pay for something that they haven't considered paying for before. It's a much harder battle. We want to go with them and meet them where they're already at versus trying to pull them over to us. So this represents meeting them where they're at, bringing them something in a category that they're already willing to spend money in versus trying to pull them to us over to a new category that they're not used to spending money in. It's going to be a much easier battle. It's not even going to be a battle if you go with what they're already telling you that they're paying for. So another thing to consider would be dual income, high earners. So they oftentimes have busy schedules. They value their time more than money, which is exactly the customer we want. Maybe they would want scheduling or organization downloads. So how do we encourage repeat business in print on demand and digital? Because I mentioned that's one of the keys in these categories. You are going to offer items for events that happen annually. So think about that. Birthdays, anniversaries, first day of school, holidays, because these things become outdated. Things that are purchased for them become outdated and they need to be repurchased often. You're not going to have the same sign that says like my first day of kindergarten for very long, right? That's going to be good one time. So it's kind of disposable. So think about what things are kind of disposable and need to be repurchased annually. Also look at what yearly, monthly, weekly, or even daily traditions or habits your profitable customer has. So offer a solution for these. Examples of this would be like the annual girls trip. Maybe they are a business and they need quarterly client gifts. Maybe they need, annual employee gifts like Christmas time. That's been a great one that I've served. Monthly goal setting. Maybe that's like a monthly type of item that they're buying. A weekly schedule, like balancing worksheet. Think about what is going on in their daily, weekly, monthly, yearly lives that they need solutions for that you can provide within these categories. So I hope these ideas have got you thinking. If you are doing print on demand and digital, it is definitely, a lot of people start here on Etsy and they get no traction. And then they think, oh, Etsy's just not for me. No, don't jump to that conclusion, but realize that you are starting in one of the hardest categories. You thought you were starting in the easiest category, print on demand and digital, but those are actually the hardest categories. So I do recommend, you don't need to give up, but look at your offer and make sure, it's not the price. That's not the reason that they're not buying from you. Look at your offer and think about ways to increase your average order value, because I don't want to see any of you trying to make $1,000 a month by having like $1 profit per item. It's going to be really challenging and discouraging. I do also want to encourage you, if any of the other categories have kind of piqued your interest, you can also do print on demand and digital combined with any other category. There's no rule that says you have to have a separate shop for each different type of item that you sell. Like I sell supplies, I sell handmade, I've done digital before. So those, you can combine things and blend your profit per item so that in total, your average profit per item and your hourly wage is higher, which is going to get you to your income goals much faster. So I hope that these ideas have got you thinking. If you have any questions, let me know in the community group.